Let's get ready to watch the greatest election meltdown of all time. This is CNN election meltdown, and we'll do more in the future. If you like this kind of content, subscribe to see more.
The right track, wrong track, we've known for some period of time.
You just voted.
I did.
And who did you vote for?
For Harris.
And tell me about how you came to this decision.
So I wasn't going to vote at all until my girlfriend was blowing up my phone telling me to go vote. And if I didn't, she was going to break up with me.
He voted for Trump, no doubt.
Is a little worried about North Carolina and Georgia. They've always said the most straightforward path is the blue wall.
It's the red wall now.
Philadelphia right now. That's why, as we speak, they're trying to get the rest of the voters out to the polls.
Iowa and its 6 electoral votes will go to Donald Trump. CNN can project. CNN can also project that Kansas will go to Donald Trump. Kansas and its 6 electoral votes will go to Donald Trump. So that's 12 additional electoral votes for Donald Trump, who now has 207 electoral.
Yeah, Jake, let me just give you a gut check here. About
gut check.
We are here
gut check time.
Here, as we've been sitting here reporting from the Harris headquarters. And I think the operative word right now is silence. There's not a lot being said because the Harris team is searching results very, very slowly come in.
Searching for Brett. You're in West Palm Beach with the Trump team. What are they saying?
Yeah, Jake, much livelier here. As you can hear, Donald Trump's favorite song, YMCA, is playing behind me. And certainly the audience here has gotten a lot livelier in just the last 45 minutes or so, Jake. We've been here for several hours, and that matches the feeling back at Mar-a-Lago, where we are hearing from Trump campaign sources that they are feeling a lot more optimistic about these numbers.
CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the state of North Carolina. This is the first of 7 battleground states that we're keeping an eye on, and we are calling it.
That's a big one.
Trump.
Yeah, Jake, remember when I told you a few hours ago that it was going to be seen as a gut check for the Trump campaign? Listen here, it's a bit of a delay, but your call is playing right now over the loudspeakers in the room, Jake. You can hear the party here, the partygoers gathered at the convention
party of
center in
joy.
West Palm Beach, cheering as your call is coming.
We don't need camouflage Waltz hats.
For the last several moments, watching John King at the map, going over each of these numbers. What I'm hearing from Trump campaign sources is they are increasingly confident as the night is going on.
We don't know what it means for the other states, but what we do know
is
there's even more evidence that blue wall is the path for Kamala.
It's a red wall. Stop calling it a blue wall. It's a red wall.
I think we're seeing as the night goes on. But also, so many people thought that perhaps this would be an election that in tenor and tone would be closer to the midterms, a big conversation about abortion. That is
nobody cares. They want to be able to afford eggs.
That male turnout is starting to produce what the campaign wanted.
It's another projection for you. CNN projects that Donald Trump will win 3 out of the 5 electoral votes.
How about you change your law now, Nebraska, to where they can get all 5?
CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
It's over, officially.
This is a
CNN hadn't called it yet, but it's over.
Huge achievement for Donald Trump and a huge bucket of electoral votes, 19 of them, for his path back to the presidency. As of right now, with those 19 electoral votes added from Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is within spitting distance of 270 electoral votes. He has 265 electoral votes. Vice President Kamala Harris has 187 electoral votes.
Spent over $1 billion and is $20 million in debt.
Donald Trump
Oprah got paid.
Within a hair's breadth.
Everybody got paid.
Being reelected president.
266.
That guy's not supposed to be in here, I don't believe.
266. 4 more. And
she knows it's over. Look at her face.
John did the path that the different paths that he put out there for Donald Trump and that for Kamala Harris. And
I'm still
again,
we're not. I mean, that map of where she did not perform,
Your immigration in terms of advertising, and it obviously seems to have worked like gangbusters. So he really identified what the concerns of the majority of Americans was, and he played to it. And she faced this overwhelming burden that people just didn't like the direction of the country as it stood now after 4 years.
It's called common sense.
Yeah, well, and the big term of 2024, Anderson, is the manosphere.
Yeah.
And we're all living in the manosphere now.
Women voted more for Trump, too.
It is now official. CNN projects that Donald Trump has been elected president, defeating Vice President Kamala Harris and making a political comeback unlike any in modern American politics. Now, we can make this projection now because CNN projects that Donald Trump has won Wisconsin. You can see our panel now that we have projected.
This girl's going to throw up, I think. Watch her.
We have indeed, John. The history this morning, 5:30 a.m. on Wednesday.
No, we knew last night.
Donald Trump has won the presidency for a second time. This time,
she looks like she's being reading from a script.
4 years, then disputing the 2020
and being
election,
forced to.
And then, of course, rallying a mob to the Capitol to try to interrupt the peaceful transfer of power there. Americans deciding to send him back to the White House for a second term. And Jeff Duncan, as we mark this moment, I do want to take a second to reflect on that reality, because there was a point in the wake of what happened on January 6th where the Republican Party had a choice.
And we chose right.
They could have decided to
Trump,
convict him in his impeachment trial, which would have prevented him from running again in the future. They didn't do that. Kevin McCarthy went down to Mar-a-Lago, posed with Donald Trump, and it was the beginning of what would become another run for him to the presidency. And of course, now we know how that has turned out.
Yes, with the win.
Considering what you lived through, what the country lived through, what do you think
this guy
says
almost
about
cries.
us
Listen,
as a country that we're here?
Well, I want to start by just a heartfelt congratulations to, or a sincere congratulations.
Yeah, don't say
to
heartfelt.
Donald Trump. I've worked for 4 years to try to not elect
Rhino.
him as
this is a swamp creature.
Candidate for our party and also as president, but he's won the race and he's won it the hard way. I never would have thought we would have been here. I think tens of millions of Americans, including Republicans, never thought we would have been
76 million or 77 million
add up all
knew
of
we'd
the
be here.
baggage along the way on the time in office and the time out of office. It's uncomfortable for somebody like me who is a lifelong conservative to watch this happen.
You're not a conservative.
There was a hopeful tone.
I know we always talk about these things of bringing people together, and I don't know if that's necessarily the aims of politics. You need dissension. You need two parties going back and forth. Did President Biden bring the country together after 3.5 years? I know a whole lot of Republicans who would say, hell no. When you
Neither
spend
did
3.5 years
Obama.
criticizing these people, calling them racist, calling them bigots, referring to them as uneducated. And now they've won.
That's right.
They've won. They've rejected the elitism that comes out of Washington, D.C. They've rejected
Drained the swamp.
elitism that has come from Republican establishment. And they've made it clear we want to go in a different direction. And I don't know why we keep ignoring this reality. Donald Trump won again by a very sizable margin for a reason, Casey. And I think to minimize the concerns that people continue to say they have about our party establishment, Jeff, about the Democratic Party establishment, is not going to change things. What propelled this man to the White House in 2016 is still there.
And get our way, this 80-20 idea, and I think
the Democrats really work with Republicans, don't they?
Happening in one segment of the Republican Party where, you're with me.
That's the problem with the Rhino Republicans.
That mentality is lost in Donald Trump's administration.
I don't disagree with that, Jeff, necessarily. But I do think when you talk to a lot of rural Republican voters about the Republican Party, the whole Tea Party movement itself, they will say the establishment wing of the party, they have completely forgotten about us.
That's right.
We turn out and vote every single election. We empower these people. And they go to D.C. and they adopt policies and legislation and rhetoric that is completely
They do nothing
to mobilizing and uplifting us. And I hear that often. I spend a lot of time with Trump voters, and I talk to them about why they're so angry with our party. And they will go through a litany, going all the way back to Ronald Reagan, about all of the failures of the party writ large, and say, you know what, maybe I don't like Donald Trump. Maybe I don't like some of the rhetoric he uses. But you know what, sure, Michael, he's putting a spotlight on all of the failures from George W. Bush and the wars, and my son was killed, and the trillions of dollars we spent. Or I'll go back to the Gingrich era, and they said they were going to do this in terms of morality, and look what the hell happened. And folks are still angry about those things, Jeff. And I think the failure was on us as a party to not address those things. And we promised to address them, and we never got around to it.
We're going to address them now.
We were winning elections.
I just think
it doesn't matter what you think. Get him off of there.
I'd like to ask Danny just to say a couple of words, because people love to hear from him.
Nobody deserves this more than him, and nobody deserves this more than his family does. This is what happens when the machine comes after you. What you've seen over the last several years, this is what it looks like. Couldn't stop him. He keeps going forward. He doesn't quit. He's the most resilient, hardworking man I've ever met in my life. His family are incredible people. This is karma, ladies and gentlemen. He deserves this. They deserve it as a family.